So grateful to be here and very happy to discuss these incredibly important and hard to talk about topics. He has an incredible backbone and staggering moral fiber. Howie is totally committed, completely ethical, totally admirable. No pressure if you can hear this, but honestly, Howie's a hero to me.
John, you joined us before, and it was a pretty incredible kind of testimony you gave, and you just devoted your life to advocacy for child trafficking, and even 9/11 truth. Maybe you could explain to us, in the last decade, what do you think the most challenging parts of coming alive on some of these issues have been?
Probably the hardest thing, and it continues, is just realizing that pretty much everything that I was told and taught since I was in grade school is probably not true.
Again into the breach, dear friends.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I guess we can call it good because it is good and we're alive. But it's been, again, another staggering day.
Horrible. Horrible.
Hard to know where to begin, honestly. I mean, for those who didn't watch the hearing, the display, I mean, we can sum it up in, 17 words. Deep state is deep state. Corruption is corrupt. Comey is a tool. I don't care how tall he is. I guess I'd want to point any listeners to the questioning of Republican second-term Senator James Lankford, who asked Comey the question that led him to answer that Loretta Lynch had asked him to describe the investigation into Hillary as a matter, and he felt sick at the request, but saw it as a hill not worth dying on. This is deeper than fiction. It's more fantastic than poetry. This is being said in a congressional hearing. Occasionally the truth will come out.
That's a very eloquent way to put bullshit. But you're right.
I did read the dictionary.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
I was incensed at the whole thing. I hardly watched any of it. I just tweeted out something to the effect that if you know that Comey ran one of the largest drug money laundering banks, HSBC. What else? Do you really?
What year was he there?
I think it was in the probably Clinton era, I would imagine.
Which one?
Yeah,
the first,
probably
the second?
90s. Yeah, 90s to 2000s. So, I mean, and of course, it's kind of the same story. Now he's at the FBI, and he doesn't know anything about all the corruption going on. And I guess when he was at HSBC, he had no idea they were laundering drug money. So.
Right, because he was a lobotomy patient. They just sliced his brain in half, and he cannot critically assess. He just feels things. He's so sensitive.
Yeah, good actor.
I don't know how...
I see right through him. I'm sorry. I was just admiring one of my tweets today. It went, I'd like to give my opinion about the Comey hearings, but I can't talk about it in an open setting.
I have to applaud that, and add to it, did you see the HuffPo Politics tweet last night? It was Obama and Trudeau sitting across from each other at a table. No food on it. Maybe they don't want any food. And
Sounds like the beginning of a joke.
HuffPo Paul actually headed this image, something dreamy dinner date. I'm not lying to you.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know how to say that's the gayest thing I've ever heard without saying. Like, I grew up in a gay neighborhood, and like benign gay people never did a thing to me except try to make my hair better. But it was still the gayest thing I ever heard. HuffPo Paul put that out. Again, they're teasing us, right? They're just sneering at us and teasing us.
Well, we could see what Twitter shoved right in our face today, and I'm sure
God.
they're
JT.
Tell us your impression of that, because I picked up my
I was kibitzing to not talk about it. Don't you understand? It's so hard to think about it or say it.
Well,
I hope we have the most audience we ever had since Becky, because I'm here to tell you there is live child rape on Twitter, and you don't have to look for it. It's just there, and they're not shutting those accounts down.
We're talking about corruption tonight, and Twitter is, in my mind, definitely a part of that. And I almost, wonder what I'm even doing on Twitter after seeing what I saw today, because I know for a fact that they know who's doing this. They could stop it if they wanted to. They could prosecute the individuals. We tweeted at the FBI and the Justice Department all day.
Over and over. And I included the Trump family.
Hundreds of followers. And you're telling me with the electronic expertise of the NSA and everybody else and the FBI.
Can't we call Ashton Kutcher?
Yeah.
Doesn't he have the prickliest thorn?
You should. You should.
So the way I look at it, we presented a RICO case with just evidence that we had the misfortune of having to see, number one, and we immediately did what anybody else would do, report it, try to get it removed. I think it took 2 or 3 hours even to do that. We tweeted all the information. We took pictures of the followers, which are accessories to trafficking child rape. And the FBI, if they look on their Twitter line, has everything they need to prosecute the people that put it on, the people that were watching it, and the company that made it possible, which is Twitter. And if that's not a RICO case, I don't know what is.
Can you define RICO?
The Racketeering and Influence Corruption Act, I believe. They use it to prosecute the mafia. And when you have
racketeering.
Yes.
That's like pimping and drug dealing and weapons, right?
It can be anything. It's any conspiracy where there's
a
multiple entities involved. Yeah. And they've put away John Gotti with RICO. And now maybe they can put away Twitter.
Is that like what they got Capone on?
No, he was. They didn't have RICO back then. He just cheated on his income tax. Yeah. Yeah. That's about right. That's about right. That the IRS put him away instead of the FBI. It's about the same thing that's going on today. I mean,
well, it's big thug eats little thug, right?
I wasn't involved in it. So how did you come across the accounts?
Well, Elle, you want to? I mean, that's where I saw a tweet that I just had to read 2 or 3 times to even believe what it was saying. And I guess Elle had seen it already and retweeted it and was trying to get people to report it. And I just clicked on this link, and there was a video that I can't even describe. And
I saw 2 today. One was, I would say, was a maybe 5 or 7-year-old girl whose head wasn't in the shot, and she was being violated. I mean, I don't know if I can talk about this, you guys. I don't mean to be soft, but oh my God.
Well, I had to go outside and get away, far away, and scream out loud. Is how I processed that. And I'm still. I talked to Howie earlier. I don't think I'll be sleeping tonight. You know, I don't think anybody that saw that. And I mean, I've been researching and delving into this sort of thing for years and years and years. I've seen a lot of horrible stuff, you know, become aware of a lot of horrible stuff. But to see what we saw today, just out there, right in your face, with just knowing that it shouldn't be there, knowing that the service that you're using to try to fight child trafficking is aiding and abetting these pedophiles. I mean, it's too much for me right now. I can't.
What about the accounts that just got sniped? Is that just Twitter flicking a switch a half degree to the right and they make a new account? I feel like we shouldn't even talk to Twitter safety. Twitter is obviously down. They're into it.
Aiding and abetting.
So we no longer copy Twitter safety, Twitter Jack. I
don't know about you guys, but if I go down the street and, you know, say I have a few beers or whatever, and I get pulled over, I get a DUI, and if I say, you know, I didn't really realize what I was doing, you know, I didn't mean to do it, you know, ignorance is no excuse, and I pay the price. Now, what is Twitter going to say at this point? Well, we didn't know that was on there.
Well, Twitter's not going to say anything because they never talk. They never tell you anything. There's nobody to talk to. They send you back a very generic response. Now, one person you could talk to is Del Harvey, who's head of, I believe it's safety and security. I forget her exact title. Del Harvey. I can pull up her Twitter account, and she was the one who used to work for Perverted Justice. She was the girl in.
Oh yeah.
She was the girl in the.
Obviously, went over
Predator.
To the other side.
She's the one who came to the door. I'll be right there. I just got to put laundry in. Blah blah blah, and then Chris Hansen will walk in. That was her. She worked for Perverted Justice, and now she is Twitter's head of safety and something. And her Twitter handle is Delbius. So I'll check it up right now.
Yeah. Well, I've got
Chris
a better
Hansen's
idea.
back, by the way. But anyway.
Yeah, I've got a better idea, and we're
Trust and
this
safety.
Is already out on Twitter, and I hope people
head of
are
Twitter,
strong and stable.
But I'm calling the FBI in the morning, and I'm going to email them the followers list and ask them to open an investigation. And I think everybody that knows about this should do the same thing. Because
are we calling Chris Ray?
You know, there's a little power in numbers, you know, and
Did mine just go dead? Is anybody there?
I'm here. I think John went dead.
All right. Do you have an opinion about Christopher Wray as the FBI nominee?
Actually, I don't.
All I know about him is that he did 2 years in sort of a lesser yet central position under Bush, and then he left.
Not really.
And I guess he helped prosecute or tried to prosecute Enron.
Okay.
I mean, I'm inclined to like him. I haven't done all the research. And it's so much easier to talk about this than the other thing, Howie.
I have to look it up. You know what? I didn't watch the Comey thing too much today. I mean, I was poking my head in, and every time, like I said, every time, he was given his shtick or whatever, and then, all the good questions, you can't talk about it in an open setting. I'm like, this is nonsense. Not much is really coming out of this. They tried to make it out like something came out, but I was watching, because I had my eye on Hillary at she was doing the commencement speech at Medgar's College in Brooklyn.
Did you watch that then?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Ooh.
She, it was nothing like the Wellesley speech. She tailored it to the audience, and she talked a lot about white supremacists and
Haiti.
But there was not. She didn't bring up Pizzagate or
slavery.
Yeah, she was like, I mean, as much. I mean, I hate her more than anybody, but she was okay today. She didn't do anything out of bounds, and she didn't choke.
Gee, I'm so disappointed she didn't have a seizure. I mean,
yeah, I was waiting. I was waiting, and but nah.
What really struck me about the Comey hearing, and I had it on in the background, but I had it on the whole time. What really struck me was there was no interrogation. Slobbered on him, and most of the Republicans did too. It was an embarrassing display, and of course McCain was having an out-of-body experience that was enjoyable in a very horrifying way because he's been making decisions for decades, and it was amusing and so very cynical and also deeply troubling because what we're watching is this masquerade, and there's no merit to it. Nobody with any half of a cell in their brain could think there's any merit to it, and yet we're paying for it. And why does Comey have the say-so? Horrible.
Well, I mean, I watch a lot of Comey because I got involved. I got involved in Twitter because of Stone Tier, Paul Gambetta and Hillary Server, and that hearing was just. I caught him in a straight up lie, and I tweet it out every now and again. But
that's so great. Can you please talk about Stone Tier for those who may not have done the research way back when?
Stone Tier is his name is Paul Gambetta, and he worked for a company called Platte River Networks in Colorado, and they were contracted to, I guess, manage Hillary's personal server. He was based out of the company's in Colorado, Platte River, but for some reason he was based in Rhode Island, and he was the guy involved in the bleach bid of the 33,000 emails that whatever magically disappeared. But the real story is that 2 days. Let me backtrack. 2 days after Hillary's emails got subpoenaed for Benghazi. A post appeared on Reddit saying, I have an interest. This is back in 2014. The post said something to the effect of, I may have an interesting situation. I have a very VIP who needs essentially email headers stripped out, the email addresses stripped out, and basically he was put in on Reddit because he didn't know how to do it. And it was under the name of Stone Tier. So that's back in 2014. Well,
when the Benghazi hearings were about to start, is that when the Benghazi hearings were about?
2 days after her emails were subpoenaed, after the subpoena came from the House from Congress.
So Benghazi was in 2012. 2014.
2014. July of 2014, and so the post appeared 2 days later.
JT's trying to call in. Howie, can you catch him up? I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm riveted.
He should just be able to. He should just be able to.
Wow, that was fun.
Yeah, there he goes. All right, we got him. But
terrific.
All right. So just
don't talk about the FBI. You'll drop.
I don't know if you could hear us, JT, but Howie's catching us up on a certain evolution.
Yeah, I was just going over Stone Tier and Paul Gambetta, which was basically the reason I got on Twitter in the first place. So emails, Hillary's emails are subpoenaed. 2 days later, a post was put onto Reddit.com asking how to strip out email headers for a very VIP. Well, Paul Gambetta went in front of the House Oversight Committee. He was given immunity by the FBI and still pled the fifth. Why they gave him immunity, that was more about the bleach bit thing. So right after that, and that was in May, I believe, somebody on Twitter, who's one of my favorite people, she found this post and basically traced Stone Tier back to Paul Gambetta. The guy was dumb enough to ask people on Reddit how to strip out email headers, but didn't even go in anonymously. He had posted as Stone Tier before. And all the good computer people were tracking Stone Tier back to Paul Gambetta. We know who Paul Gambetta is because he went in front of the House Oversight Committee. They know he worked for Hillary. And it was a smoking gun that the guy who worked on Hillary's personal server was asking how to strip out email addresses 2 days after her emails were subpoenaed for Benghazi. And basically, Comey was asked about it. They asked if they knew about the Reddit post before they gave him immunity, and his answer was something to the effect of, I'm not sure. I mean, it was a central question, and I have the clip, and I tweet it out all the time. It was on C-SPAN, and it was. I mean, he just lied. They knew about the Reddit post. They absolutely did.
Well,
and how
Comey knows about Benghazi. I mean,
right. But this guy, I mean, this was, it never came back. Like, why was this guy on Reddit? He's definitely Stone Tier, and they already admitted to that part, but the mainstream media never reported on it. So
that's how they get away with it. These egregious, dumbass, knuckleheaded things occur, and the way they get away with it is because mainstream media does not report it, and there's a critical lack of curiosity in our culture. I don't know what the problem is. Is it the frontal lobe? Is it the lead in the water? Why aren't people more curious?
I fell asleep. You know Bill Cooper, William Cooper.
I sure do.
No.
We're gonna have to. He's
the
original. Yeah, he's the original. Yeah, I mean, he would be just so amazing. He had a what was it, a ham radio? What would they call it, John?
Yeah, he broadcast over. Actually, it was low power FM, and then I think he went out over the shortwave too. And wow,
he ended up being murdered. I'll say murdered in 2001. Mm-hmm. He was being served an arrest warrant and wound up dead. But
for a trumped up charge.
Yeah, but anyway, I was watching. I fall asleep to video sometimes, or I might have woken up to his video, and basically he was talking about just people know. I think his quote was like, people know the third baseman for the New York Mets. They know this, they know that. It's, and this is an older. This was obviously a very old interview, but people are just so, they believe that entertainment and sports. And if you just look at the amount of retweets and we're just saturated with this stuff, and people just, it's sports entertainment. And it's like, the people that make the laws and, control the world. Stuff's boring. Politics is boring.
Do yourself a favor, if you really want to know what these freaks that run our world are doing and why they're doing it, it's on, you can look it up on the internet, Bill Cooper, and he does, I think, a 20-part series on Mystery Babylon, and that's their religion. All the Masonic people and all these elites practice this religion, and Bill explains it from A to Z. And once you understand that, you understand what's going on and why they do what they do. And we just got live tweeted a Twitter ad, it looks like, for translating Twitter from English, help translate Twitter from English. And they've let's see who tweeted that. That was, give me a second here. That was Butterfly Kisses tweeted that to us, who's a regular listener and tweeter to us. And all the FBI pedophile symbols are in the little blurbs in this cartoon. There's the triangle, the square, the circle, and all the pedophile.
On the Twitter Translate page.
Yes.
Change the world.
Yeah, that got tweeted out. A couple days ago. Fascinating coincidence.
And I'll be damned. We went on Twitter today and we saw live child rape.
I also saw a video of I guess he might have been 9 at the most, being groomed. A series of images, sort of strangely shot, real shaky cam, but in different settings, and like him getting closer to the larger male. And
well, instead of going to Twitter, I mean, right now Mark Cuban should be tagged on stuff because he just made a huge investment. Vanguard.
Mark Cuban is one of those dirty billionaires, don't you know?
Right. Well, he's high profile, and his investment is, harboring this stuff. So
it's him, Jack, and the Saudi prince. It's him, Disney, and the Sods.
Yeah. Well, Vanguard is the largest shareholder of Twitter stock, for their mutual funds. And I think they should know about it also. But anyway.
Wait, so there's Prince Waleed. There's Jack Dorsey, a.k.a. on the board of Disney. There's Mark Cuban. And then there's shareholders?
Well, they're the individual shareholders. But as far as the stock goes, they're owned by, Vanguard Mutual Funds has the most. Because it's, as a group.
Mm.
We're talking about corruption, and it's everywhere, and talking about it is not going to solve it. What we've posted in the show notes tonight, and there's a couple events that are coming up. There's one on the 10th. It's a nationwide event to save our children. And we'll have some information on that. And that's Neil Wolf, Howie, is
ourchildrenmatter.net. And basically, the initial thing was to get just small rallies in all 50 states. I'm not sure how many have signed up so far. I mean, I'll be doing Philadelphia. I'll be down at the Liberty Bell. And,
Yeah,
so
there is. One I do know of is in New York City. And that will be. It seems like quite a few people are participating in that. You can find out about that on Facebook, and I will be posting some links to that and tweeting about it tomorrow. And also, as always, just about all these show notes, we have links to a local anti-child trafficking resolution that you can print and take to your county commission, your city government, whatever type of local government that you have, and start trying to legislate against this from the bottom up. Because obviously our intelligence community, our FBI, our corporate structure could give a shit about our children.
Well, how about our toothless Congress? I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Or, throw them all in. What I said today, after I was listening to somebody talking about Comey, I said the whole lot of them, Republicans, Democrats combined, I wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire. And I truly mean that, and I meant it when I tweeted it. And we're not going to get help there. That you're not going to get it. And Cynthia McKinney put it best: if we don't rise up in a group, regardless of party, regardless of race, color, creed, religion, you name it, and start raising hell about what's happening to our children, there is no hope. There is nothing good that's going to come out of that Congress. I think Trump is trying to at least have the child trafficking issue dealt with, but the corruption is so great there. They're going to take him out in one way or another, or neuter him. That might have already happened, but it's going to be up to us. We keep if you're looking to Washington or you're looking to a president or whatever, this is bigger than all of that. These companies, DynCorp, multinational concerns are bigger than that. They control that. These families that control banking and everything else in this world are bigger than our political system. So if we don't rise up and demand that at least our children are going to be safe, I don't think we deserve to be in a free country.
I agree completely. No president could affect the change that has to happen. It has to be a societal demand. I agree completely. It takes total engagement. People have to be willing to look at this, and you don't have to look hard. I, for one, am not searching rape on any social media, and yet today I saw rape on social media. So it's right there. And if we can't get it up to get curious about this, to get upset about this, to talk about this, we deserve the meteor.
Let's see. We're getting trolled tonight on our
great.
on our
While
Twitter
we're getting
feed.
trolled, I'm going to talk again about the WhiteHouse.gov petition to
I'll leave you
special
up there.
Prosecutor.
I'll leave you up there, Jim Twig, with the 100 followers. So
don't worry about it.
I think he's calling us.
I saw him today. I saw him today. Don't worry about him.
We'll leave him up there.
Dude, I got trolled
so
in
we can
public
hate
the
on him.
other day by a total stranger. These people exist. They're
You're
going to
not
say
getting trolled.
ridiculous things.
You're not doing something right. So at any rate, my point being, if you go to the show notes, you'll find a resolution that you can print out and start tomorrow and go to your local government and start to effect a change. So there's an event that Howie just mentioned. A good friend of his and an acquaintance of mine, Neil Wolf, is putting that on. You can show up at these events and continue to
But where can they look up
organize.
these events? We have to make it easy. People aren't that curious. They basically suck. They need us to tell them exactly where to go and fucking when, and do they need sunscreen, right?
Well, here we go. Howie, what's the website?
The website is ourchildrenmatter.net. And you can sign up if you want to hold a little rally, anywhere. We're just trying to get, 50 states represented, or as many as possible. Listen, the reality of the situation is getting people away from the screens, off the computer, and into the streets is so far it's been challenging, and it's the only way that this is going to happen. We talk about strength in numbers. I mean, I stand on the street and I see thousands of cars, and maybe I'm lucky if 3% of the people even know what I'm doing out there. We have an awareness problem. We have a major, major, major awareness problem. And it's going to take a long time, but it's going to happen. If everybody wakes up one person, and they wake up one person, and they wake up one person, so it's the old, Elle's probably too young, but the old, Fabergé commercial, you tell two friends and they told two friends, and and so on and so on. But that's the only way it's going to grow, because we have to get this into the consciousness of people.
And as Elle often says, we have to get off social media. I mean, we have to get out and into our
Which is
communities.
Which is why those of us who are willing to show up for this June 10th event need to be able to congregate and should have a place to try to connect with each other. The validity would be in our numbers. Is it just you, Howie? It's just you. But if it's 40 of you.
Right. Well, everyone's going to try. They can do it anywhere. It's just to be out there.
A Facebook group, or if we can already go to a place where we can begin to organize by zip code or something, is what I'm asking. I know it's a lot to ask.
Well, there's I think if you go to the website, all that information is on there.
Could you put the website in the show notes, and could you say it again?
Yeah, ourchildrenmatter.net.
I'm going to live tweet it out right now, as a matter of fact.
Fortunately, it's in 2 days, so if anybody wants to, get going on this, and there's brochures that you can print out if you just want to hand out brochures. It's more or less it's not one major rally. It's just smaller rallies, across the country, and it's more symbolic. We're going to work on getting a real big rally together, but we have to get people comfortable to actually get out in the streets and see other people and say, hey, this is going on. Pizzagate is real.
This website is great.
Pizzagate is real. Yeah,
I can see conspiracy of silence here. We should probably try to get that Treasury agent's report on here.
And the Finder's report is in our show. It's in our show notes.
We ought to cross it over to this .net.
If you want, and I suppose I can, but I'm I'm the king of the Finder's report. Well, it should be in every just about every show we've done in the show notes.
Yeah, praise to you.
If there's somebody out there, there definitely should be a rally in Baltimore.
Yeah, in front of the Archdiocese, and let's talk a little bit about that. There's a great, and the title tonight was Finders Keepers. I loved it, Howie. Finders Keepers, and it's to show the arc of corruption and the correlation to abuse. And when we started this series, that's what we started on, the Finders. You can see it in the show notes. You can read it for yourself. It's a report done by a United States Customs agent, Treasury agent, that researched this. They had 6 children that were taken into protective custody, 2 men in jail. They had the Washington Police Department had search warrants. They searched warehouses in the Washington area. They found evidence of the Walmart of child trafficking. And this was in 1987. They had computers. They had all sorts of paperwork, policies and procedures, children's clothing. And with one phone call, the CIA shut that whole investigation down. And read it for yourself. That's what everybody needs to read it, because when you read that report, there is no denying whether this is it's a fact or that these rings don't exist or whatever. It's right there in black and white in a report put out by the Treasury Department, who also documented that the CIA stood them down and stood Washington police down. I wonder if that's what they're doing with Seth Rich now. Probably. Washington D.C. police are doing no better in my mind. So that's where we start the arc up to present day. And Elle, tell us about the Keepers.
It's interesting because the Keepers actually occurred before the events of the Finders. The Keepers occurred in the late 60s, the summer of love, if I'm right. And it's these cloistered Catholic schoolgirls and this young nun and this depraved priest / chaplain / principal of the school, effectively. And
yes, Father Mescal, yes.
The way the story evolves, it's convoluted and it's fascinating, because on the first end of it, it's what's the first conflict? The first conflict is that this young nun has been killed, and it's all very mysterious. Who would possibly want to? And she's so popular, but her car is found like across the street from her own apartment. And how could that be if the killer drove her car? And the girls that she was a teacher to wondered about it. And this story is being driven by the curiosity of these one-time students who have come to maturity and realized their favorite sister was murdered. And the other mystery or part of the story is that this chaplain, this respected Father Maskell, who got shuffled around from diocese to diocese, he's a rapist, he's a pervert, he's a sadist, he's a trafficker, he's a pedophile, but totally protected by his position and protected by his institution, which instead of getting rid of him, prosecuting him, neutralizing him, they relocate him for decades. So one young boy is his victim, and then a series of 13, 15-year-old girls are trafficked by him. And it's interesting that these stories are coming out now. I hope they're not meant to sate our curiosity. I hope they're meant to whet our curiosity. Not that any media conglomerate could possibly be on our side. We all know Hollywood is a factory of misery and suffering and rape.
Well, as we see it, and what a story. I mean, these women, are heroes. Becky Percy is a hero, and the survivor. That we have the two women who weren't abused, but are the catalyst in getting this investigation going in this documentary. But Jean Whalen, who was originally Jane Doe in the lawsuit, comes forward. She's identified, and listening to that woman, what happened to her at the hands of this priest who had been shuffled around like a bad pool ball, in this pocket over here, send him over here, and kept defending, just destroyed this woman to such a degree that she had blocked all these things out of her memory. That's the only way she could survive. And the memories didn't even surface till 20 years after she was married and had children, and almost, put her in a mental hospital because she thought she was crazy. But all the details of the crimes and what she did, and it turned out that this sick bastard took her out to the murder scene and showed her this body and threatened her, if you ever say anything, this will happen to you. Well, I think that would be enough to wipe something right out of my head, And she recounted details of the murder scene that nobody else knew. And just seeing this woman's, and just this is the Archdiocese of Baltimore. Okay. They were complicit in all of these crimes. They knew what was going on. They moved these priests around like a shell game. They stalled because they knew there was a statute of limitations, and they knew they had victims. They obstructed justice, in my opinion, when if they knew there were victims that could corroborate one another of the abuse that this guy was doing. And what do? No, they call lawyers and they try to separate the victims and not let the victims know that there's another victim here, when they should have been calling the police and having this guy arrested and charged. There's been no criminal charges. All these victims have come forward. They've corroborated one another. And it
goes up to the Attorney General of the state. There is this exhumation of evidence. There's this, multi-year investigation that occurs, and there's, confessions, and there's documents found, and there's photos dug up, and there's a cop who's afraid to show his face, these many years later, saying, yes, I was there when we dug up the weird archive Father Fuckface made us bury in the back 9. And there are pornographic pictures of very young kids and these files about them and what has happened to them. We dug that up. And the Attorney General of the state She has the nerve to sit there and lick her lips and look sideways and say, you might want to prosecute, but you can't. There was no evidence, only hearsay. And yet we have XPDs saying we dug up an archive. We have this record of the fact that this pervert, pedophile, criminal, rapist.
And guess what?
All that
evidence.
Archive. It was there.
So he buries the archive. And I don't know about you, but the research that I've done on these networks, the only reason anybody would document anything like that is because they were involved with an intelligence service or one of our alphabet agencies. They're keeping records. A pedophile is not going to document his crimes in a folder and write about them. They keep pictures, they keep mementos. But this was an archive of all of his abuse that would have put him behind bars for years. And
he's kind of like a Lecter character in my mind.
Yeah. It's all gone. Where is it? They interview the district attorney of Baltimore, or the assistant district attorney, who's got more excuses than I've ever heard. Oh, we didn't have this. We didn't have enough proof. We didn't have this. We didn't have corroboration. And lo and behold, the evidence is gone. We have family members. Let me give you a little bit of the timeline here. So she was murdered in November 1969, November 10th. And then
could you say her name?
I'm sorry?
Was it Kathy Sesnick? Could you say her name? Was Kathy Sesnick murdered and actually mutilated and left on a hill for the snow to fall down on her?
Catherine Sesnick.
Sister Kathy Sesnick, right? Like a 26-year-old nun.
A true saint, a person that did something, because this victim told Sister Sesnick, and the police know this, the archdiocese knows this. Okay, this is this woman's testimony. Okay, she told that sister what was going on with her, and Kathy Sesnick told her, "You don't have to worry about it. I'm going to take care of it." And the next thing she knew, when she came back to school, Kathy Sesnick was gone. She was out of the school. They moved her into this pilot program, and then all of a sudden she's murdered. And that happened on November 9th. 2 days later, another woman, same description, almost identical, is kidnapped out of a car, just like Kathy Sesnick was, disappears, was murdered. They find her body at Fort Meade with all her clothes, and there's a black pair of shoes, an extra pair of woman's shoes at this scene that Kathy Sesnick was described as wearing. And the cops say, well, we'll check those out, but it turned out they didn't belong to her. So they murdered this woman on an army base in the same manner she was kidnapped, and there just happens to be an extra pair of shoes there. And these cops are want us to believe that this was really investigated. I mean, why
wasn't it investigated?
Well,
why wasn't it?
Well, maybe because the pedophile was the chaplain for the Baltimore County Police, the state police. He was a lieutenant colonel chaplain in the Air Force Reserve, and his brother was a detective at I think the city of Baltimore. I mean, this guy had more. He went out on police ride-alongs, and this has been testified too. Took some of these high school girls, his that were in his charge, took them out on ride-alongs, and they were taken to rural areas and raped by police. Okay, so maybe that's why it wasn't investigated.
Well, I mean, people can draw their own conclusions, but there seems to be that there was a lot of evidence against this. The detective had suspicions against Maskell, and he was very difficult to get a hold of, and he was able to get away with it for a very long time.
And I would be remiss without mentioning there were good detectives that worked this case. Okay, I think initially there weren't, but when the lawsuits came out, it started to get rolling again. There is one detective that was doing his best. He even appeared in that documentary. He was trying to do the right thing. They moved this guy to Ireland, so he wasn't available for the police or the lawyers of the lawsuit, coincidentally. And it's a RICO case. I mean, the Archdiocese of Baltimore, there's probably collusion on a lot of other levels, but it's absolutely crystal clear that the Archdiocese of Baltimore.
Well, just to add to this, I mean, it's something I pulled off one of the articles. The Archdiocese of Baltimore is the oldest in the United States, and the church considers it to be the premier Catholic jurisdiction in the country. More than half the city's residents identify as Catholic. According to the Survivors Network of those abused by priests, Baltimore City prosecutors have charged only 3 of the 37 Baltimore priests who have been accused of sexual abuse since 1980. So 3 of 37. 37 were accused, only 3 were charged. 2 of those priests were convicted, and one of those convictions was overturned in 2005. So basically, out of 37 priests accused, there's 1 conviction.
Okay. And did you hear about the list?
Vatican is pro-pedophile. Let's just call a spade a spade.
Did you hear about the list that they put out? And all it was a waiting game. They waited until they knew the statute of limitations, and there's actually a bit of good news on that, was expired for these victims to be able to sue. They stonewalled, they waited them out, and then when they knew they couldn't sue them, then they bring a list of 76 names that the diocese says were credible sexual abuse. Okay, why weren't they reported to the police? That's a crime, and there is no statute of limitations in Maryland on sex crimes.
Because what we're talking about is their hiring criteria, and they're actually selecting for people who are going to be able to look away from real evil and acknowledge that actual crime is just a problem, it's just a thing we live with, and maybe we can profit off it. This is what they're hiring for. They're hiring for racists, emotionally unstable, and definitely sociopathic. I believe they're selecting for this, and that the good ones either keep their heads down or they go down.
Well, and that's true in some respect, but the majority of police officers are not of this ilk. This is a small percentage, and that's what we have to realize too. Yeah,
we don't disagree. We don't disagree that those who are actually okay with it are a small percentage. What I argue is that there's a corporate culture that makes, let's say 10 are good, and 30 are appalled, and 15 don't know. It's those 30 who know but don't have the gall to get together and make a move that I find to be that's our actual enemy, in my view.
I haven't watched The Keepers. That it mentioned, because I find this. Well, I've read the actual story. The fact that Nancy Pelosi's brother was the mayor of Baltimore, does that factor into this at all?
When was her brother the mayor of Baltimore?
What's the show about? Corruption? Yeah, that factors in. Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi's brother was the mayor of Baltimore from 1967 until 1971. He decided not. He only ran for 1 term. He didn't rerun, or he didn't go for election because he had 5 children and said he couldn't make it on the mayor's salary. There were also riots in Baltimore after Martin Luther King's assassination that led into him not handling him well, and that's why another reason he didn't run. But he was the mayor of Baltimore when Sister Sesnick was murdered and all this was going on, and they are very strong Roman Catholics, what I've read.
Yeah.
Just a caveat. Just a caveat to this story.
Did MLK die in Baltimore?
No. There were riots. No. He was
all right. So just an uprising, of course, because they knew a political assassination had taken place.
Her brother was criticized the way he handled the riots, and that's why he didn't run. But it's just the fact that he was the mayor, and Nancy Pelosi's name come up with Goat Hill Pizza. It's just,
well, please, and I'm in the process of doing this. I'm trying to get Gemma, one of the ladies that has been investigating this to come on the show. I would love to have her come on there. Go to Facebook. They have and this is even beyond belief. I was dealing with this today and the stuff that was on Twitter. They've started a Facebook page to help with the investigation, and some assholes, some sick bastards, have an identical Facebook page that is making fun of the victims. They're exploiting the victims of sex abuse. It's been reported hundreds of times to Facebook, yet they let it exist. Well, go on Facebook and join the official Justice for Catherine and Jean Malecki. You'll be able to find it. Go to the Keepers, but make sure it's the official one, and then look for the other one that's on there, and let them know how you feel about it, because you can't. They've blocked me totally from commenting anywhere on their thing, but what they can't do is block anybody from leaving a rating of their website. So you can read the ratings. Mine's on there. My wife's on there. And make sure that you let Facebook know that they're allowing hate speech. They're allowing an organization to exploit the victims of sexual abuse. Okay? So
what you're not acknowledging, JT, is that their objective is to coarsen and weaken and destroy the fabric of society. It's in their interest to allow sociopaths, pedophiles, criminals, and rapists to achieve a platform. That's actually their purpose. As we saw today on Twitter, we know people talking about the political assassination of Sean Lucas, Seth Rich, John Ash, Victor Thorne, going back decades. Anyone talking about that's liable to lose their Twitter. However, you can go ahead and share.
I will risk it.
I guess my point is that these platforms are actually we're on.
I understand your point, though. I understand.
We're on quicksand.
But
they're not on our side.
It doesn't mean we have to be quiet. So, and I'm not very good at that, and I won't be.
I would encourage, with everything that went on Twitter today, I would encourage everybody to tweet to Del Harvey. Her at is DELBIUS. It's Delbius, DELBIUS. She is the head of Twitter Trust and Safety. And so
trust and safety.
And I want to jump on that.
So can't get the support. Support's not going to talk to you. Nobody's going to talk to you. But she should be on blast. So.
All right, we will. And don't forget to call the FBI tomorrow.
Or, ask Craig Sawyer to back you up in any of your worthwhile endeavors to protect the children or free speech.
I will do that.
Right? Thanks for the likes.
We're going to keep raising hell, and we're going to keep this case. We're going to keep this case in the mix, and I hope to channel a lot of support towards these two, elderly ladies, and I'm not very far behind them myself, but they're doing an awful lot of work, and we need to help them, and that'll be one of my goals, and is to get them on here to talk about what we can do to help them.
But
one last thing. I gotta tell you this before we get off the air.
Jeff Sessions talked about pedophilia to law enforcement yesterday. There's so many topics we didn't cover. Always just not enough time.
No, we're gonna have to expand this to 2 hours. But in Maryland, the CT is his first name. It'll have to go next time. They extended the statute of limitations.
Great, to 27 years?
38.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
See everyone Tuesday.
See you Tuesday.
This world.
This is Ozzy Skateboard, and you're listening to UCY.tv.